Well, howdy there, guys. Let's talk a little bit about groundwork, shall we? So, what are you trying to accomplish with groundwork, or what's the point of it all? Well, there's really only three reasons you would want to do groundwork in the end anyway. And that's first and foremost to be able to lead with quality. Second, to be able to prepare your horse for riding or for mounting. And third is for the advancement of art. Typically this means going into liberty or working at a longer distance or going after some sort of a problem-solving puzzle trick. You know, trailer loading might be under this category. So what do you need to do groundwork? Well, there's a lot of people who say a lot of different things. You know, they have all these different tools that they suggest. But really all you need to do groundwork to start with is a halter. You know, any kind of halter is fine. I like to use the rope halter kinds, the rope kinds, and you need a training length lead, which is like 12 to 14 feet typically. So the reason a 12-foot lead is so neat is if you're 6 feet tall, 12 feet is 2 arm lengths, right? So so you can get to from one end of the rope to the other in 2 arm lengths, no matter how far, or in under 2 arm lengths, no matter how far you are away from your horse. And that's really it. That's all you need is a halter and a lead rope. Anything else is they're just extra tools to help you get the job done more efficiently and make yourself more clear to your horse. So let's start looking for the ability to lead with quality, because that's always our first goal when we touch our horses. You know, even if we could do this in the arena where it's nice and flat and we got a lot of, you know, space and fences and stuff like that. And that is good to do, and you should do that. But I figured, why not start out here in pasture, because this is where you're going to probably start with your horse. If you keep him outside or you keep him in a paddock, something like that, then, you know, groundwork starts at the very beginning. So let's talk about dominance hierarchies or the pecking order when it comes to horses a little bit. Horses are always looking for a leader. You know, you see horses turned out in pasture together, and they meet each other for the first time. Well, you know, there's going to be some fireworks, and what they're doing is they're figuring out who is able to move whose feet and who can resist that pressure and stand still, and become the leader, the lead horse. So the kind of a general rule there, if you're watching horses or humans work with their horses, whoever moves their feet the most is the loser. And that definitely goes into leading with quality. So, but I think the first thing we got to focus on here, because Dime is so interested in grazing, well, let me pause. Okay, so now we've saved the camera. So let's get started with this leading with quality, and we'll start just with our lead rope and the halter here. And the first couple of things that you're always going to have to ask your horse to do, or be able to ask your horse to do, is to be able to send them in either direction, have them face from either direction, be able to draw them in, and be able to back them up, right? And the way you do this is a lot more important than what you're doing. So here we go. He's starting to get a little bit more interested in grazing than he is in paying attention to me and what I'm doing here, because I'm just jawing away at the camera. So the first thing, this ever look familiar to you? This ever look like your horse? Well, maybe a good way of starting to get your horse's attention is through the proper application of steady pressure and then rhythmic pressure. This is step number one. So we're going to ask him to send out to the left in a round, and I'll put 1 ounce of pressure on the halter, and I'll release the pressure when he brings his head up and brings his attention back to me. So 1 ounce of pressure, and then we'll start to spin, and right there, the moment he picks his head up, everything goes quiet. Again, I'll put 1 ounce of pressure, start to spin my tail. There we go. So then I'll ask him to walk again. Good. Point, tail, release. There we go. And pretty quickly here, point, there we go. Pretty quickly you won't have to spin your tail as much to get the response you want, because you want to be able to get your horse to do anything you're asking him off of an ask, you know, off of the point, not off of the consequence, which is spinning the tail and doing all that hard work. Point, and you see how he's doing all the walking and I'm just standing right here in the middle. My feet are pretty much not moving. Point, yeah. But after a minute, your horse starts to get the idea, gets warmed up. He'll get a little further away from you and your tail kind of gets short so you can't reach out as much. That's when having an auxiliary tool like a stick or a carrot stick or something like that comes in handy. Because horses have long bodies. Horses are quadrupedal, and they speak to each other using their tails and their necks and their noses and pushing each other around and pushing each other with their hips and their hindquarters. But humans have very tall bodies. They're bipedal, so we don't have that extra set of limbs to show the horse where our front and where our back is. So that's why a tool like a flag or a stick or a carrot stick or something like that is so useful. And that's why you want your stick to be about 4 feet long. Because if you look here, 4 feet is about the same length as a horse's neck, and it's about the same length as your horse's leg. So maybe a stick might be a little helpful here, especially when we're looking for a little bit more out of our horses in terms of groundwork. So we'll point, send them off to the right. And that, you see how this flag makes life even a little bit easier. The key is you want to just have it sit kind of in a neutral position, as long as your horse is doing the right thing. And then when he needs a little clarification, first you point, then you activate your tool, the flag, the carrot stick, the lunge whip, if need be. This is a big part of the sequence of events when it comes to asking our horses for anything. It's always ask, suggest, tell, and then, you know, if need really be, promise. But people tend to get to that higher level of pressure too quickly and not give their horse the chance to respond. So then let's ask him to face us. So I'll start looking at his hips, and there we go. And there he rolls right out and gives me 2 eyes. Let's try from the other way. Point, send the shoulders over. So when your horse is facing you, you want to put that pressure in front of the drive line, or you want to put that pressure towards the nose or the neck, you know, in front of the shoulder. When your horse is parallel to your side on, then you want to put the pressure behind the hips in order to get him to move, right? So pressure, point, stick, and then we'll speed up a little. Good. And you see how I'm letting him feed out here and travel around me. Ah, good. A little extra energy going on. So then again, I'll tip my hat, pick my hand up, and look for his hips to step away. Maybe we'll walk in here and see if he can do that a little bit more. Good. Disengage. You see how I'm putting a little bit of pressure on the halter, and then steady pressure on the halter and rhythmic pressure behind the hip to get it to step away. Good. So he's kind of a little bit worried about this flag. So that's actually kind of, if your horse is at first distracted. All right, you see how he stepped on top of me there? So I'll put a little pressure towards his eye. There, and send him out and away, because he was almost stepping on top of me as though he was looking for a little bit of reassurance, which is just fine when they're, you know, young, and or if they were a 16-pound little puppy. But since he's a 1,600-pound horse, I'd much rather him not jump on top of me looking for that that reassurance. So we'll ask him to face. Good. We'll let him think about that. And then maybe what we'll do, because we've been asking him to move around with this flag a little bit, then I'll come in and just see if I can touch him on the withers with it. There we go. And just keep rubbing him. And when he blinks or takes a breath or relaxes a little bit, I'll take that flag away. Let him think about that. Now let's see if he'll lick his lips. Or take a breath. Good to wait sometimes after you move your horse around a little bit. There. That way they can have a chance to digest the thought and kind of get at what you're, or understand what you're getting at. So then we'll point off to the right here, ask him to move off, then we'll look for him to face. And he didn't quite move his hips away from me there, so then I started to walk towards it. And you see how much more he walked away from me than I walked towards him. That's a really nice principle right there. He's doing more than me. See how he's creeping up on top of me here? So then maybe I'll shake my lead rope a little bit and say, hey, back over there. Don't get worried. And then while you're standing over there, I'll rub you with this flag and let you kind of think about that a little bit. There he blinks, he's taking a breath. I want to see one more sign of relaxation now. Either he lowers his neck or his ears flick forward. Blinking a lot, that's nice. And we'll just keep going. That works. He kind of softened his eyes a little and tipped his nose towards me. So then we'll take that pressure off and let him think about that for a second. So sensitizing and desensitizing, this is part of leading with quality. We want our horses sensitive to our hands and our body language and where we step and where we point, but we don't want our horses sensitive to this flag, right? We only want them sensitive to this flag when we want this flag to mean something. But if we just accidentally wave it around, then we don't want to cause a big stir. Like we don't want our horses to explode at the show pen or something like that because we accidentally waved the American flag in the wrong direction. So we'll keep waving. And maybe I'll take one step away from him here and see if he can walk towards me. And then give me a blink or Lower his neck a little. There, that works. Then maybe kind of stare off at the distance here, the horizon, a little bit. Hey, that was nice. He took a step towards me and a blink and a breath. So then I'll reach out and rub him on the shoulder. And he didn't really give me a big reaction there. So that's good. So then maybe I'll swap sides. Oh, he has a little problem with that. So we'll check. There we go. So you want to watch your horse for reactions. So if they, you know, suck up, stick their head in the air, and kind of lock up like that, that's a reaction. So you just keep going with whatever made them react until they realize it's no big deal, it's just part of the furniture. And then either you dull that reaction or you turn it into a response, depending on what you're looking for. For instance, that, we want to dull the reaction. If we were sending our horse out and they, whoa, it really exploded out to the left or the right, then we'd want to soften that and refine that into a response, right? So let's send out. And there now he thinks, okay, I know what to do with the flag. So, but now that my body language has changed, this flag should mean something. So then I'll increase the pressure and I'll start to walk, there we go, in the direction that I was pointing. And you see how all of a sudden that started to mean something. Good, I'll check if my point means something again. No, I still had to actually ask a little bit. There we go. So then I'll tip my hat. Good. We'll point. Very nice. Then wait for him to come along here and point. There. Good. So your point means turn that direction and speed up. There we go. Doesn't matter if you're in an arena or out here in the pasture. Then let's look for a face. So he's doing the facing pretty well. If your horse kind of wings around and looks at you and doesn't grapevine step or take that disengaging step with his hindquarters, then you want to keep your hand up in the air just like you were asking him to face you and see if you can follow his hindquarters around and get that grapevine step over. There we go. So then send. Good. And then we'll look for the disengage. There. Very nice, all the way around. So you can either disengage just, you know, one step to get a face, or you can just keep following it all the way around to make it smooth. This guy's doing actually a really good job of kind of being a demonstrating horse. I was hoping he'd give us a few more issues, you know, maybe think about the grass a little bit more. So we got our send out to the left and the right though. Once you can send your horse out to the left and the right and you have control, basically you have control over their hips and their hindquarters, then you see, well, can you maybe bounce the lead rope in between your hands or shake the rein a little bit left and right like that and get your horse to take a step back. See there, he walked into me, so I'll swing a little bit more loudly until he takes another step back. There we go. And then try and refine that down a little bit. Good. Start with just a finger wag. And then start to wag your wrist maybe. And then wag your elbow. And release. And if maybe he's a little bit heavy on the halter, then you can just start to use your flag or your carrot stick back and forth underneath that lead rope. Here we go. So we got a certain distance away, and he thinks maybe I can run through him. So the first things first is you want to ask for a face, and then see if we can get that back up again. Good. All right, send on over here. Look for a face. Good. And then try it back up. A little hard to back up uphill, huh, big fella? All right, good. Send around this way. Look for him to face. Oop, bump. If you don't get a response, you can give a little bump there. And then there's that back up a little better. So we'll point, see if we can get that nose up out of the grass. Nice. Disengage the hips. There's a little bit more work. He was making me work a little too hard that time. So if that's the case, then you can wake up the volume a little bit. Good. All right, tip the nose, up, walk in. Then back up. A lot of the time, or sometimes, your horse will try and walk around you when you ask for a backup. In that case, you kind of want to try to be a brick wall as much as possible. That first time there, he kind of ran around me, so then you have to look for a face and look for him to back up again. But it's not about winning the individual battles kind of a thing. It's about overall getting your horse to work on with your strategy. There you go. Good. So we've got him to send out both ways. We've got him facing both directions. So the way we've asked him to face, there we go, in the beginning, is by pushing his hindquarters away and asking him to disengage. That way your horse is making a submissive maneuver in order to oblige you. You know, the other way you can do that though is if your horse is leading forwards, you can back up with him, and this will draw his nose in towards you and also get him to face. The difference is this is a little bit more submissive on your part, and if you have a more anxious horse, that could actually be a good thing, could be a boon. So let's send out. There we go. And we'll work him down this way. If he got a little worried there, so then we'll ask him to change directions. Good, change directions. Little straight, there you go. And good. Nice. So you see, after you can get your horse to send left, send right, face, draw in, you know, do those submissive maneuvers, and then as you're sending around, say, be able to, let's get the right angle here, be able to, say, back up as he's sending around and draw him in. Well then, usually what follows from that is a horse that leads really well. You know, you could without thinking about it, you could step over this way and he's with you. I could walk over, I'll go, I forgot something over here. And he should pretty much come right with me. If I went to, say, open a gate that was right here, I could then go, all right, send through that, big boy. He should walk through the gate, then turn and face and wait for me to close that thing up, back out of my space a little bit, and then we walk off and we go do our thing, right? So that's really what this groundwork is all working towards in the end, is getting a horse that's with you and able to respond to you and understand what you mean when you gesture to him, basically. So I'll point again here, see if we can get that head up out of the grass. So you see how that was kind of a reaction. Even though he's trying to do the right thing, this flag does hold a little bit of power for him. And if I were to walk up and rub him with it, he kind of sticks his head up in the air. And then, there you go, there's a nice lip lick. But he sort of locks up. You see how he does that? So Buck Brannaman would say a horse will stop his feet to preserve the brace. So I think the next thing that this guy is going to need, and this may be a little bit more than groundwork just for leading with quality, but heck, let's go for it, is you want to be able to desensitize while in motion. There we go. So, and this is actually helping him to reinforce that the hand is the thing that signals him to move, and it's not the flag. So as your horse is walking around here, you want to kind of climb down your lead rope so you're pretty, you're within stick's reach of him. Then simply ask him to keep walking a circle around you, and then reach out and see if you can rub him on the shoulder. If he stops his feet, point and ask him to keep moving. And then once he's moving, just start rubbing with that flag or the stick or the lunge whip, whatever your horse seems to be afraid of. You see how he picked up speed and started trotting there? And now he's stopping here. It's really hard for a horse just to walk around nice and relaxed if they're afraid of something or if they're harboring some anxiety. They either have to stop their feet or speed up and feed their fight or flight response. If he speeds up to the trot, I'll just tip his nose a little bit more towards me to help slow him down. If he tries to stop his feet, I'll just put a little bit of pressure on, just like you saw there. I'll point first and then start to tap with the stick until he moves off, and then I'll go back to rubbing with the stick. That way it kind of shows him, hey, the stick is always there. The thing that changes is my arm. So don't worry about that flag or anything like that. You see how he's starting to walk around a little bit more relaxed there. He took a breath. He's starting to disregard this flag a little bit. And that's what every horse seems to do. Good little obstacle there in pasture. And get him to focus on where his feet are going. So then we'll change our body language. Good. Send the shoulders over. And as he's walking around, reach out and rub them. Rub them there. If he walks a little too close to me, like he did there, I'm just going to point and send him out a little further. You want your horse just about a stick length away from you, about 4 feet or so. 4 to 7 feet, I guess. Good. And just rub them, kind of play like you're playing the violin. See how he got the hang of it on this side a little bit faster, but he just still needs a little clarification. And you see where that pressure goes. First I point, and then I put pressure way back on his hip there to get him to move forward. I'm not going to try and like beat his shoulders or anything in order to get him to go. Good. There, a little more relaxed about things in life. So let's send out again. And you see how that send around was a lot more of a response, less of a reaction? That's what we're looking for. excuse me, a lot less of a reaction, more of a response. You know what I'm saying. Good. So then, good. Heck, we can get a lot done with our horses here. That was a nice response there. He kind of swung his body around and got out of the way of my flag. So there, if he gets out at the end and decides to try to stop, I'll just show him, hey, the flag wakes up. Good. Let's ask for a face here. And draw in. See that? You can use that submissive posture to your advantage if you want to build your horse's confidence. By drawing him in there. Good. You can back away a little bit to draw him in. And then you can leave the slack in your lead rope. You don't actually have to pull your horse at all. Good boy. If your horse breathes out, gives a sigh like that, that's always a good opportunity to rub them. Reward that mindset. And then anything that moves towards a horse gives a horse confidence. Anything that moves away from a horse makes them more afraid, typically. So if your horse was nervous about a flag, you could maybe flap that flag or wave that lariat around as you're walking away from them. That way they get a chance to observe it and they start to, you see how he started to make that corner a little bit tighter to take a look at this thing. So then I could stop and just work my way on over and play with his side here. Good. He starts licking his lips, then I'll rub him. Yeah, nice breath out. So then I'll walk and flap my flag around this way. And then just keep kind of playing with it. See, I'm trying to change that lead rope around in a savvy, sly way. But the key is just kind of keep that noise up, that noise level up, until you see a little change. There we go. There's a little blink. So then we'll send forward. Good. And then reach out and rub them again. Good. Hey, that's a whole lot better. There's virtually no worry about that now. You can kind of just work your way all the way up and down the horse's body there. And if he stops, point. Ask him to keep going. And that flag just is moving regardless. Good. We'll change direction. Yep. And then reach out. Rub them all over with our flag. He seems a little bit more preoccupied with it on this side. But there, he broke back down and he's... You see how this gives him a chance to deal with that pressure a little bit. So if your horse tends to kind of lock up when you desensitize them or when you sack them out, then there we go. Then this might be a good exercise for him, desensitizing in motion here. There we go. Good. So A horse is a precocial species, which means they're born able to walk right from day one. That also means that they are born having to learn from their mother, but based on body language and observations all the way from day one. So that's another reason why you would want to be able to use a stick to show them how to position their body, because it's the most natural way. It's the way a horse's mother talks to it's the way the horse's mother talks to him. So with this stick that's about the same length as a horse's neck and about the same length as a horse's leg, you see you can use the visual pressure to push a horse, but that's only one of three things that a horse will move away from. Horses move away from sight, sound, and touch. And so we want to desensitize them to the sight, sound, and touch that we don't want them to react to. And we want to sensitize them, their reactions, to the sights, sounds, and touches that we do want them to be sensitive to, and make those into responses. So that could be, for instance, if you're just playing with the flag and flapped it around like this, you'd want your horse to stand and do something like that if he was properly desensitized. Likewise, with this 4-foot stick, not only can you use sight, like I said, and sound from the flapping of the flag, and get them desensitized to the things that you don't want them to react to, and sensitive to, say, when we want to ask them to step over, then they know what that means. Good. And you can also use this stick, so not only for kind of push them around visually and from a distance, but you can use this stick physically to push and position your horse's nose and neck and body, because that's exactly what a horse's mother would be able to do, is use this stick and reach out and say, hey, push your hips over here, son, and listen to me a little bit. So let's see, what else did I miss? What else, D, about groundwork? Draw in, send out, desensitize in motion. So I guess the only other thing to mention about the groundwork and leading with quality is in order for your horse to lead with quality, or be able to be led with quality, you yourself have to lead with quality. And what that means is you have to kind of be worthy of the leadership role. You know, horses don't just give people what they want because they want it, right? They give people what they deserve because they earn it, yeah? So in order to earn that leadership role, you kind of have to be becoming of a leader. So that's in your body language, in your posture, in how you communicate to your horse and what you communicate to your horse. Are they in good hands, or do they have to watch out for prey because maybe their owner is looking out for predators and looking like a prey animal themselves? So in order to lead with quality, you have to be a leader. And horses recognize this, and I think that that's one of the most valuable things about horses, is they teach us how to do this. And so with that being said, maybe Dime and I will take a step off here and go home for the night. Happy trails, folks.